The one word that I think is just probably the most important word as you get into ownership in horse racing is trust. If you're not going to trust your trainer to make all the right decisions, and if you're not going to trust the bloodstock agents or the other people who are going to help you in choosing horses, you're going to have a really tough time with it. And it was very important to not only trust the person from a financial perspective and ownership perspective, but trust that he's going to make the right decisions about your horses. You ought to, be prepared to be involved, though. That's really important. If you're not going to be involved and you're just going to do it from the sidelines, not only are you going to miss out on a lot of the fun, you're putting yourself in a position where you can second guess a lot of things that are out there, as opposed to being a partnership in trying to have a say in what's going on with your horses. Now, the next important thing is that if you do ever get yourself in a position where you own a bunch of horses, in the vernacular of what I use in my retailing business, you also have to be willing and ready to take your markdowns. And what I was doing, if a dress didn't sell, you had to bring it down to a price that the customer would be willing to pay, and maybe you could move it. Same thing applies with the horses. At some point in the life of the horses, a racehorse, you got to put aside what you paid for the horse and just determine where is the appropriate place for that horse to be running. And sometimes that is a tough decision, but I can tell you from experience that if you don't make it, you're making a big mistake. And 2 years ago, we had gotten up to 41 horses. Many of them weren't running very, very well, and that was much too high. So over the last couple of years, we've gone through a process of trying to reduce the number of horses, and reducing the horses, that's in the best interest of the horse also. There's no sense having a horse out here running at the top circuit that is just chasing all the other horses around the track. I can tell you it gets depressing from an owner's point of view. My wife almost said, why are we still coming out and watching these horses run when they really are not able to perform? So we went through a process with a lot of help, and we moved a bunch of horses, pretty much sold a bunch of horses that moved back east to Virginia, or they moved to Iowa, or different places, and they could compete there. And I watched those horses for a while, and I saw that they were winning at those levels. But there's no way they were going to win at the level out here, and all you were doing was writing checks, and that's not healthy for anybody. So, as you think about ownership, and if you do end up having a few horses, I can tell you they multiply. You don't even, if somebody would have told me 8, 10 years ago that I would have all these horses in Kentucky and some out in California breeding, that was never the going-in plan. But you end up having a few good horses, a few fillies or mares, and you say to yourself, do you want to sell them or do you want to take a shot? So we ended up keeping most of the mares that we ran. We ended up selling some, made some mistakes, but you're going to make some mistakes, and then you get some benefits. And mentioned Gabby Linejoff, that mare that won our first race. We now have 2 unbelievable fillies. We have Gabby's Golden Gale, who has won 2 grade 1s. And I remind you, we've been in horse ownership for almost 10 years. We won our first grade 1 last year, and now we've won 3, but 2 with Gabby. And then her little sister, always a princess, looks like she's going to be a really good one. So that was the good thing on the breeding side. And you spend a lot of money out there buying horses, and then all of a sudden you breed a couple, and you never know what you're going to have. The first one we got out of Gabby Linejoff is one horse called Gabby's Hen. She's running for $5,000 somewhere. And then the second and third ones have been really really good to us, and we hope they're going to continue.
How many of you out here are race fans? Show of hands. Okay, you mentioned he has 3 grade 1 wins, and I'm sure everyone that's a race fan has seen Blind Luck's final race as a 2-year-old across town in Inglewood and the Hollywood Starlet, where she looked amazing and won by 7. Does anyone know who the runner-up in that grade 1 was? Arnold, do you know who the runner-up in that grade 1 was?
We had Miss Heather Lee ran second, and also Always a Princess ran second in grade 1s. You have something pretty good, and even though Blind Luck ran the way she did and continues to run, we have hopes of beating Blind Luck down the road with Project 5 is Always a Princess.
You use the word trust a couple of times, and for the future owners of racehorses, trust the trainer to make the right decisions. Who is it that really makes decisions? Is it the trainer? Is it the owner? Can you talk a little bit about that?
There's you have to remember as an owner, you're not a trainer, and you don't know all that they know. I mean, they live with these horses all the time. You come there once a week and you give them a carrot and you pet their nose and all that kind of stuff, and you can get close to how they run and you know, what are the best kind of races. So the kind of participation you should have with your trainer is what kind of race should they run in. If they are going to move the horse to a different level, you want to participate in that kind of decision. Depending on the kind of race, deciding on which jockey to use. You know, most trainers have relationships with a few jockeys, and they're the ones that they want to use. Some jockeys are good for come from behind, some are up front. But you know, this is the fun of it. It's fun being out there watching your horse run, but it's also fun talking with your trainer about decisions that have to be made. When a horse is ready to run, you have no idea. It's totally up to the trainer and the vets and whatever. If a trainer says to you the horse is not ready, basically the horse is not ready. If there's a little, you know, glitch in what's going on, you just accept that glitch. And you can be the day of a race, and the trainer can call you in the morning and say, our horse has sniffles, so we're not going to run him. Fine, you know, you go along with that. So there are things you want to participate in, which are fun. There are other things you've got to remind yourself, you're not the trainer, you don't understand all that stuff, and you've got to leave it up to them, and that's where the trust comes in.
How important is it to have a passion and a love for thoroughbred racing before you make that decision to become an owner?
Well, that's really the neat stuff. I mean, you know, again, I've been going to races for 30, 40 years and never had any idea when I was doing that I'd be getting into it to the degree that I've gotten into it. So the passion is there, and there are going to be ups and downs. You're going to go for a period where you're saying to yourself, what am I in this for? Why am I doing this? And all of a sudden, one day you'll come to the track, one of your horses will run, and it'll run well and win, and you'll say, well, this is what I'm in this for.